Hey, love. Welcome to No Matcha, No Mama, the podcast where we pour a little matcha and a whole lot of truth. Each week, I sit down with someone I admire, founders, healers, creatives, and friends, and we sip a matcha I've made just for them based on what they love. I like to do everything with intention, from the ingredients in your cup to the conversations that we have. And the show is more than just about talking. It's about exploring how we can truly thrive through all the mess and magic of being human. Here we start with matcha because how we start matters.
Perfect.
Hi.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good
morning.
How are you?
Good. Today I am joined by Dr. Felice Chan, an acupuncturist and doctor of traditional Chinese medicine, whose approach to healing feels both ancient and deeply modern. Felice brings such a calm, intuitive energy and bridges science and soul, blending Eastern wisdom and Western understanding in a way that feels really accessible, human, and rooted. She's also the founder of Moonbo skincare, which I can't wait to talk about, a beautiful extension of her philosophy and true radiance starts within. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me and for such
excited.
a lovely intro.
Yeah, of course. So I made you a matcha because I like to start out our episodes. Well, I like to drink matcha in our episodes. So I just made you a unsweetened coconut cashew milk matcha with peak matcha and a little bit of cinnamon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's so delicious. It's almost like fall in a cup.
Yes. I do cinnamon in my matcha every morning. I also added some collagen because it makes it a little
lovely.
creamier.
Lovely. Thank
Extra
you for
boost
that.
of protein
Yes,
too.
why not?
So I wanted to start out with asking, this is part of my ritual in the morning. It keeps me grounded and I love the, making of it and sitting down and drinking it because it brings me back to myself. And I wanted to ask, what are some of the things that you do or something that you do in the morning to start your day to really ground you?
I love a hot cup of water. Like hot, from the kettle. I grew up only drinking hot water. Ice wasn't really an existing mode to put in water growing up in Hong Kong. And I think that just brings me back to my root, my peace. And in Chinese medicine, it's so nourishing for the gut and it just wakes me up and gives me the energy I need.
And why didn't you drink anything cold?
It's just not part of the culture and it's not part of the medicine. Yes, we did have a fridge, but everything was either hot or room temp. Even if you go to restaurants, they don't serve you cold water. Everything is hot.
I mean, I've definitely heard that. I drink cold sometimes, but I've started to read a little bit more about it and I want to transition into more warming things. Is there anything else that you do besides that are part of your rituals or daily things that really?
I love what we say the yin moments, right? The yin moments are the quiet moments in the morning. I love my meditation, my breath work, my journaling, and even just 5 minutes of it transforms my day. I'm someone who really values a morning routine because without it, I can't really go about my day because it is busy. And I think I need that peace and that moment for myself before I do, the million things a day. And that's what always brings me back to self and my truth.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that more people would benefit from that morning time to themselves. And that's really part of what I want to try to inspire people to do here is really making sure that you're paying attention to yourself before anyone else.
Oh, absolutely. And your morning sets up your day, which sets up your week and your month. And so I value that. Some people obviously don't have the space or the time. It's hard to carve out.
I think everyone can give 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. 5 minutes, wake up a little bit earlier. It's transformative.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Good for a nervous system.
For sure.
Yes.
So you began in Western medicine before moving into traditional Chinese medicine. What inspired that shift? And can you just walk me through that journey a little bit?
Yeah. So when I grew up in Hong Kong, born and bred, and I always knew I wanted to be a doctor since I was a little girl. And so through middle school and high school, I would shadow a lot of doctors in the summer or during my breaks, either in Hong Kong, but also here in the US. I went to an American international school, so I think I was kind of sifted to American education. And even in Hong Kong, my closest neighborhood clinic was a Western clinic. You'd go when you have a flu and they give you medication. And Chinese medicine was less about the medicine where you go into a clinic, but it was more so medicine at home.
Okay.
And that's how it was brought to me. But because of the path that was shared with me, I went to school for neuroscience and pre-med, and then I ended up working in a hospital for a few years post-college, post-undergrad degree, and that was all I knew. And one day just kind of had an aha moment. I was actually in bed, like tears crying. I'm like, this is not my path. This is not my truth. This is not something that meshes with my values. And I've spent a lot of hours shadowing doctors, neurosurgeons, watching brain surgeries, back surgeries. And it was enlightening and wonderful. But I think it filled a part of me that needed to be filled, but I was seeking something else. I was seeking mind, body, and soul connection, recognition of emotions, and recognition of like empowerment and intuition. And I feel grateful because my mother helps me a lot. And when I went to college, she went back to school for career counseling and counseling in general. And so I called her and I was like, hi, I don't know what to, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And I was young then. I was in my early 20s. And she was like, all right, I'm going to be your mom and then I'm going to be your counselor. So let's do this 2 ways. And then it was a little online test almost where I had to answer some questions and it brought me back to what brought me joy. And it all went back to medicine. So I was like, okay, this is what I spent most of my life. At one point I was like, can I be a chef? I love cooking. She was like, you're going to hate that. As a mom, don't do that. And so that's when I really sat with myself for a few days after that. I'm like, it's Chinese medicine. It's something that I grew up in the household. It's how we drank teas, the hot water, the herbs, the lifestyle, the balance. And I wanted to dive deeper into it and especially get into the acupuncture side of it.
When did you get into it right away? Like what happened next?
So what happened next was I had my job for another couple years at the hospital. I was doing clinical research and it was wonderful. And through that time, so many more signs and signals came up where, I was working with kids with debilitating eczema. And the only thing that gave them relief was acupuncture, right? They were pumped with steroids and working with trial drugs and, with a slew of side effects.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, I'm certain that this is my path. And I was so curious. And that's when I moved out to LA. I went to school for 4 years from a master's program and then an additional year to get my doctorate. It wasn't easy. It was long. It was grueling, but it was everything that I hoped for because it was fascinating and it opened my mind to a whole new lifestyle in medicine.
Yeah, and that's what you wanted to do. So it was really, it didn't feel as much like work, I'm guessing, because you were inspired and you wanted to do it.
Yeah, it was fascinating, every single day. Even now as a practitioner and a doctor, I'm learning something new every day. And I'm like, oh my goodness, had no idea that these connections existed. Because, you go to school and, at any doctor, Western or Eastern, you go to school and you have this toolbox and then you go out in the field and you're trying to use this toolbox to figure out how you can treat. But there's a part of Chinese medicine that is so intuitive that I think a lot of Western medicine doesn't allow. And I think with that, there's so much more growth and power to heal the body.
For sure. I work with a Chinese medicine doctor as well. So
how lovely.
Yeah. I've been seeing her for over 10 years now. And so I totally understand that. And it's all through the mind and body and food and supplements and acupuncture. So I'm well versed in the world. Yes, it's all of it.
Yeah.
So I totally get it. And okay, so was there – no, you talked about this already, your personal experience going through it. How do you bridge the two worlds now, the structure of the West and the intuition of the East?
It's really interesting because most people who find acupuncture here in the Western world, here in the US, have a background of going through the Western system, right? So you have to know both. And even in school, you had to learn Western and Eastern medicine modalities, obviously like anatomy and physiology and understanding the nerves in the brain. And then you go to Chinese medicine, which is all about meridian systems and energy and, organ connections that doesn't make sense in Western world. And so when I approach it in clinic, you have to see both sides. Someone comes in and their presentation is going to be like, I have this issue. Let's say I have headaches or infertility or hypothyroidism. And you're like, okay, that's what is diagnosed, but let's really break it down. And then that's when we go on for the 30-minute conversation of, tell me everything. Tell me about your emotions, how you sleep, your stools, your digestion. Because when I know more, all of those symptoms are not the root, but what's above. We say kind of the branch of the system. So once they tell me everything that is happening, I'm able to then figure out what is the root cause. And so once we figure out the root cause and through time, through acupuncture, herbs, lifestyle, a lot of the cascading symptoms will dissipate. And so that's kind of a shift of, okay, Western is very compartmentalized. It's very specific. And then we kind of bring it all out into what Chinese medicine is in a holistic standpoint.
That's really interesting because, it makes a lot of sense, right? Because you have to understand symptoms that are stated in Western medicine in order to figure out what it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that I talk a lot about this, but Western medicine is very much like a Band-Aid. Like they find symptoms and then they want to give you a medication to just like deal with those symptoms instead of figuring out, which is what you do,
the root cause.
The root cause of it.
Exactly. Yep. And, you know, I think there's a lot of power of Western medicine and we need it, especially for emergency situations.
100%.
Or cancer therapy, for example. However, you know, I do want, you know, coming onto this podcast and sharing that, you know, I really want people to feel empowered to search and to learn about their body intuitively and that you can heal yourself your own, you know, with tools from Chinese medicine or tools from holistic health because it's there, you know, your body wants to heal and you just have to trust it.
Yeah, I'm all for it because I had to do that myself. I went to doctors and tried to figure out what was going on with me and it was a lot of gut issues and I went through tests and they obviously like couldn't figure it out and then I decided to listen to myself and someone in my family told me to go see my Eastern medicine doctor and I went to go see her and then she figured it out and then I went on this path of healing myself and I think we're still healing ourselves every day. Like it's not like a one and done situation because other things come up. You need to advocate for yourself too and you intuitively need to figure out what is going on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, the more people who are open to this medicine and you know, hear about it, I think it will give them a whole nother light bulb in their mind of how can I heal myself, you know? And you know, it's fascinating and I love it. It's what I love about the medicine and being practitioners that every time someone comes in the clinic, they're just like, wow, like who knew, you know, I mean, not just their body through the acupuncture treatment, but they are also shifted in a new perspective of how the body works.
Yeah. I love acupuncture so much.
Oh, me too.
I wish I could get it every day. Do you give yourself acupuncture?
I do. It's funny. I mean, I do prefer going in for a treatment. I have 3 other practitioners in clinic and they're wonderful because to carve out that hour of self-care, right? To be like, okay, this is where I'm going to completely surrender. I'm going to let someone take over the treatment who I fully trust and I can just melt and surrender into the table and heal. There are times though where, you know, let's say a patient canceled or someone's late. I'm like, you know what? I have a pocket of 45 minutes. I would love a treatment because it makes me feel so grounded and so good. I'll just put a few needles in my body, kind of lay on the bed. I'll set an alarm and I'll just kind of rise after that. And then I continue the day. It's wonderful.
That sounds lovely. I wish I could do that to myself, honestly. It would be really useful.
Oh my gosh. I carry acupuncture needles in all my purses. You know, when they're like, what's in your bag? I have needles in all my purses and I will always travel with them.
I love that. Yeah. That's amazing. So for listeners who are new to Chinese medicine, can you describe traditional Chinese medicine in like simple modern terms?
Yes. I always like to say I like to break down traditional Chinese medicine into 4 pillars. It's so complex that sometimes there are people like, I don't understand it, you know? And the first pillar that most people find acupuncture through or Chinese medicine through is acupuncture, right? It's acupuncture, acupressure through the meridian system. We have qi, which is our body's energy that runs through the meridian system from head to toe, hands to feet. It's essentially showing that every part of our body is connected. And that's why you go to acupuncture to move this qi and to heal. The second pillar is herbs and herbal formulas and herbal medicine. You know, these are herbs that were discovered thousands of years ago, and through experiential medicine and science, they figured out what herbs worked well together, what synergized together, what shouldn't go together. And with that, it's really powerful because, again, it hits the root cause of why you have these cascading symptoms. And so then you start to feel better. And then there's a third pillar, which is food as medicine. You know, it's how we eat, how we drink. It's you know, the hot water in the morning, it's the warm, nourishing foods, it's the 3 meals a day. And then the last pillar is lifestyle, and lifestyle that really emphasizes balance and mindfulness.
That's beautiful.
Chinese medicine in a nutshell.
I love that. Thank you for explaining that so well. And can you explain the idea of yin and yang, how balance shows up in daily life, our mood, digestion, and energy?
Yes. Yin and Yang, I think a lot of us see yin and yang as this Taiji symbol, right? It's the circular yin and yang symbol that we see everywhere. And when you see it, it's completely equal, right? The light is completely equal to the dark. The sun and the moon, it's the daytime and the nighttime. It's truly about how opposites need to coexist and how polarities are important, but it's how we find balance. And so we see it in nature, but we also see it in ourselves. And my I think I like to explain it with our body and our nervous system, right? Our nervous system, at least our autonomic nervous system, has two sides: our sympathetic, which is the fight and flight, and our parasympathetic, which is our rest and digest. And our nervous system has to have equal amounts of both, and it's just always interchanging, right? And we here in the US, we're all ambitious. We're all trying to work and make a life and do a lot, see friends and, be a part of society. But I think so much of it also has to be the opposite, where we find our quiet time, our meditation, walking, finding joy out of the day for purely joy and not for work, right? Because it's how our nervous system switches. And so I think that is what yin and yang is in a nutshell is for our body. It's how can we find that balance? And so a lot of people who come into the clinic who are coming in for some ailment, right? Let's say, again, skin issues, stomach issues, headaches, there's something in their nervous system that isn't switching, because you can only heal in the parasympathetic rest and digest. And so how do we encourage you to find that part of your body more so that you can switch easier and that, flip is easier to go back and forth so you can heal?
How do you encourage people to go into that when they're not in the clinic with you? Because obviously you can do acupuncture to bring them back into that. So how do you encourage people to do that on their own?
I mean, a lot of Chinese medicine is what happens outside of the clinic, right? And so I always, every time someone comes in, it's a never-ending exchange and a partnership. I'm like, you have to reach out to me if something happens outside. Yes, I see you once a week, but there's so much, I see you 1 hour out of the 7 days and 24 hours each day. So please share with me what is attainable to you, because everyone's different. I sometimes will send out a list of 10 to 15 things that, someone will want to know, but ideally, they're going to pick one or two things that switches their nervous system back. Sometimes people have the capacity to do 5 to 10 things, but sometimes people have the capacity to do one thing, right? So it's more so tuning in with who that person is and what they're looking for. But I mean, it's a range of anything from breath work. Go walk on the beach today. Go find joy. Put away your phone. Charge your phone in the bathroom tonight. Or have a nourishing breakfast. Make yourself a hot cup of tea in the morning. Go run in the woods with your dog. It really changes, but it's everything that isn't the, fight or flight working mode.
It sounds like a lot of it is, like you said, finding joy, right?
Yes.
Because a lot of when I think about bringing myself back into the parasympathetic is that I need to do something that's like calming.
Yeah.
I never think about doing things that just bring me joy. And that makes a lot of sense because when you're feeling joy, there is a sense of calm there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So I really love that.
And my mother-in-law told me this the other day because I used to be someone where I was so strict with my morning routine. Like, I have to journal, I have to work out, I have to have a good breakfast, I have to have my hot cup of water. And, at some point with this busy life, I'm like, okay, this is feeling more of a routine and like just checking. Exactly. So I'm like, okay, how do I be intuitive and sit with myself to feel what actually brings me joy? I'm like, what brought me joy today was I wanted a lower body heavy lift and a hot cup of water and to journal, but I didn't meditate or do breath work, and maybe I'll do it later or tomorrow,
And that's fine.
Or my joy is I want to go for a walk in the rain with my dog, and let me do it. And so it's a fine balance of intuition and feeling into what your body needs at the moment, but also knowing what is good for your nervous system,
Yeah. I love that so much. Thank you for sharing. Because
you're so welcome.
I really never thought of it that way. And I do think that people don't think about finding joy as that way of
resetting the nervous system.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
You often, I'm going to switch a little bit from this.
Of course.
You often
to.
read the tongue as a diagnostic tool, which I know a little bit about, and it's fascinating. What can it actually reveal about our health?
Everything. So it's really funny because sometimes people be like, oh my gosh, you're going to look at my tongue and you're going to see everything. I'm like, yeah, but that's okay. Yes, people come in and they talk about how they're feeling, but sometimes people are more reserved. People are not open to this medicine, or they're a little bit hesitant, right? But as soon as I see the tongue, you see everything. Our tongue, we say, first has a tongue map and an organ map, where the tip of the tongue is the heart, the sides, the liver and gallbladder, the center, which is our digestion, the spleen and stomach. Further in the back, it's the kidneys and urinary bladder, right? So where things, in terms of the color and the coating and the texture and where it is, shows what part of the body is off balance.
Wow.
But in addition to that, we also look at the coating and the tongue color and the shapes, or even just like other things like the deviation of the tongue. And something that I see a lot here in LA is thick white coating, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are just like, oh, you don't have good dental hygiene because you have a thick white coat. And to me,
It has nothing to do with that.
exactly. In Chinese medicine, whether you use tongue scrape or not, like whatever. I'm just like, you're going to tongue scrape again. It's a Band-Aid. It's going to come back in a couple hours. But why do you have it, right? A thick white coating in Chinese medicine is dampness and cold in the body. It means that the digestion is a little bit sluggish. It's cold and it's not moving the way it's supposed to. It's, your digestion, which we say the spleen in Chinese medicine isn't transforming and transporting fluids and food the way it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
So everything's kind of stuck in here. And so you feel things like fatigue, weight gain, brain fog, feeling lethargic, and everything makes sense. And so how can you really target the root of that? Perhaps it's shifting to more warm foods and hot water. Perhaps it's, instead of an iced matcha in the morning, do a hot matcha, right? It's little shifts that way where even when I have patients who come and I'm like, stick to whatever it is. Let's say hot water, hot matcha for 1 week. Stop the iced coffee. You're going to notice a coating difference. And they come in the next week. They're like, my, tongue coating got better. I'm like, yeah,
I told you.
And it's so funny because tongue scraping is always like this controversial thing where
I do it. But
I mean, I think it's absolutely fine. I don't think it adds anything to your health.
Really?
No, I mean, because again, you tongue scrape, it's going to come back after you have a cold smoothie.
So I heard though that when you scrape your tongue in the morning that you're removing some of the toxins that are coming out from like detoxing the night before. You don't think that that's accurate? Or
in Chinese medicine, it's when you think about toxins, it's not really coming out of your tongue. The tongue coating is represented from your esophagus and your gut in general and your stomach, right?
Okay, yeah.
So perhaps you're scraping it off the tongue, but it still exists in your body. It's still in your entire coating of your digestive system. So again, it's just kind of a Band-Aid solution and more so like a mental, like, let me just like scrape this, but it comes back, right? So it's more so how can you get to the root of that and like get into the gut itself to heal it. And personally, like when someone comes in to get a treatment, I always say don't tongue scrape because then I can't see your tongue coating, because it could be yellow, it could be patchy, it could be black, there's so much information. It's not just white. But in addition to that, yeah, sometimes with medications, sometimes with more intense. I mean, I see it when someone's going through chemotherapy, but it's really indicative of what their body's going through. So that's the coating part, but then there's also the tongue body, right? It could be pale, it could be red, there could be cracks on it. You could have teeth marks or a scalloped tongue, could be swollen. There's so much information, and it just keeps going.
That's fascinating. Mm-hmm. I could sit here and talk about tongues for a long time, but I'll switch gears.
I think people find it extremely fascinating because it's a diagnostic tool, we see it. And Chinese medicine isn't just about, you have these symptoms, let's, put in these needles. I like to feel someone's pulse, look at their tongue. I like to see their eyes. I like to feel how cold their feet are because it is holistic, and it's sometimes silly to me that you go into a primary care physician for a physical checkup for 15 minutes, every year. And I'm like, there's not enough information you get in that 15 minutes. You're not, touching someone physically, not in like a weird way, but like you have to feel their energy. You have to see where there's stagnation. Like if they have cold hands and cold feet, it means their blood isn't circulating, and where is it stagnant? Mm-hmm. Anyways.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating. I could geek out about this literally all day long.
Oh, me too.
So TCM really honors the seasons. How does our energy shift throughout the year, and how can we live more in rhythm with that?
Yeah. I like to say that we are nature beings, right? We are human beings. We live in this earth, and we need to live in the cycles with the earth to feel our healthiest and happiest. For example, we are shifting from summer into fall. It's fall now, right? Mm-hmm. It's a little colder now in LA. It's rainier. So how can we protect ourselves? In Chinese medicine, we always say eat with the seasons, eat what grows, the pumpkin, the squash, the vegetables that are growing right now and seasonally in California. It's the best way that you can acclimate to that. But also, how do you protect your body and protect yourself from getting sick? You get sick when your body and the environment are misaligned. So that's, the seasonal flus that happen. So for example,
it's like the transition between one season to the next.
Yeah. So I see a lot of flus that happen during that transition of summer to fall to winter, winter to spring, right? Because everything is shifting in nature and our body isn't catching up to that. And so my biggest advice is, summer to autumn or fall, it's transitioned from heat to more cold.
Right.
It is a little bit windier, a little bit rainier. So how can you protect your body? It means wearing socks. It means wearing a scarf. It's, sticking to warmer foods and hot water or hot coffee or hot tea instead of the iced tea. And with that, your body's going to align more with the season.
Interesting. And what about switching from warm to cold? So like a transition from a winter to spring, summer.
Yeah. So winter, I always like to say, and every season is relevant to an organ system as well. Like summer is the heart, it's the joy, it's outward, you're excited. Fall is more so the lung time. It's we say the metal elements, so our lung and large intestine. It's where we start to feel a lot of the breath gets shallow or a lot of flus and coughs that happen, right? It's this fall flu season. And so how do we tune in to actually breathe deeper into our lungs, to do maybe more breath work during the fall? Then you transition to winter, which is what we say the kidneys, because in kidneys, in Chinese medicine are part of what we say our essence, and it's very grounding, and we need rest. The kidneys need rest. So, in wintertime, you're not that active. It's darker out, and listen to your body. If it's more tired, it's absolutely okay. It's why, animals hibernate during the winter. Our nervous system needs more rest then. And then transition from winter to spring, it's when things wake up again, wind, it gets windier. You look at the trees and they're moving, and it's almost like moving in our body that we're almost excited for the summertime. So it's how can we be in rhythm with how nature is and how it reflects in our body.
What is the connection between the organs in the spring?
Yeah. Organs in the spring, we say is the liver.
The liver.
So the liver in Chinese medicine is so important for stress and frustration and anger in general. And we say that liver has the energy or the qi of it that really targets free flow of energy in our body, right? We always say in Chinese medicine, pure health and optimal health is when there's a free flow of qi and there's no stagnation. Stagnation means that we say blood and qi stagnation, which means you can have like neck pain or jolts, or you have stomach aches. Everything's stuck here, right? And so we need to move that. And so the liver in Chinese medicine is very responsible for any type of energy stuckness or energy stagnation. And so during the spring, we really have to nourish it, right? And it's even nourishing it with things that are good for the liver, like green foods or sour foods. And I always like to say, dark leafy greens or a little bit of lemon in your water, because it reinvigorates the liver to kind of move this energy.
And what about summer? What are the organs associated with summer?
So it's heart and the small intestine, which is all about, we say those are the fire elements. So it's about the joy. So it's interesting because during the summer we have the most energy, but it also could be too much, right? It's where a lot of anxiety happens. It's where a lot of sweating happens. So how can we balance that out, right? And so that's why you have to eat with nature and eat more cooling foods. Like in Chinese medicine, it's mung beans or drinking peppermint tea, because though it is hot, like hot temperature, we don't talk about, foods as like the temperature itself, but the nature of it and the energetics. And peppermint's cold, right? And cooling. So drinking a hot peppermint tea will counteract the hot of the summer, or eating cucumbers or watermelon.
What other foods are cooling? That aren't like cold.
Yeah. So, I love like peppermint tea in general. When we think about cooling, seafood, especially fish is, whereas like shellfish is warm. It's so nuanced, we think of certain beans, but there's also a lot of food that is neutral, like rice or oats. Those are neutral in general, totally fine to eat. But, let's say it's summertime and you're having hot natured foods, such as it's an overabundance of, let's say, lamb or beef or fried foods or spicy foods. You're going to notice that you're sweating more, that you maybe have more acne, that you're more anxious because it's just hot and it's too much.
Oh, okay. So basically you're saying in the summertime you should eat more cooling foods.
Correct.
And in the like colder months you should eat more warming foods. So
exactly. It's balancing. It's the yin and yang, everything balancing back into
So
equilibrium.
if you're eating too much, but if you're eating too much warmth in the winter, is that?
It should be fine because winter is cold, right?
Oh, winter is cold, right.
Yes. No, but
I asked the wrong
it's okay.
question.
That's okay.
If you're eating too much cool in the winter.
Yes, that's exactly. That's when your body will feel stagnant. Again, it's not just the temperature of things, but it's the nature of it. So let's say we're having too much cucumbers or watermelon, but also cold raw foods, which in general is like cold and dampening and ruins the digestion in Chinese medicine. You're going to feel worse. You're going to feel more sluggish. You're going to feel colder. You're going to perhaps catch that winter cold, right? That's why, transition to fall, why people love pumpkin spice, because all the spices are warming. Exactly.
So what are your takes on like raw salads and raw foods in general, and how does that affect the digestion?
Yeah. I mean, in Chinese medicine, it's not recommended. And the reason for that is our body's warm-blooded and our digestion is warm. Even in Western medicine, our enzymes in our gut need to function at a warm state. It's about 37, 38 Celsius and 98.6 or 99 Fahrenheit, right? Which is warm. And so when you put anything cold in your body or anything raw, such as a salad, ice water, smoothies, iced coffee, and the list goes on, it's going to essentially make your digestion work on overdrive to warm it first before it can actually absorb any of the nutrients. And so over time, in Chinese medicine standpoint, when your digestion, we always say the spleen and stomach, if that's working on overdrive, it's going to get weaker and weaker and weaker, right? And so why not feed it with something warm and nourishing so it doesn't have to do that extra step to warm first before it actually processes and digests and transforms everything? Because with that overdrive and the weakening of the digestion, that's when things happen like bloating, SIBO, fatigue. And we always say it's tied to brain fog. It's tied to edema in the legs. There's so many of these symptoms that are all tied to gut health. And it starts from there because in Chinese medicine, the gut is really the center of qi, which is our energy, because we get qi from food.
It's fascinating. And then you talked a little bit about rest, but what does rest mean in Chinese medicine, and how do you personally ground yourself when life feels overstimulating?
I love this. I mean, rest in Chinese medicine, again, it's the yin to the yang. Yin is the dormancy, the rest, the nighttime. The yang is the elevated, the daytime, the sunshine, the movement, right? So rest is how can you bring, again, that yin into your daily life? How we spoke about earlier, it's that joy. It's that rest. And it's, making sure that your mind can calm down, because also a running mind, even though if you're sitting still, perhaps, meditating or not, and your mind's running, it's still working the body, right? So how can you take that shift away from it? And for some people, it's this active joy. For some people, it's truly writing everything down in a journal. For some people, for me, my sacred time is having breakfast in the morning. I either listen to a podcast or just sit in silence, take breaths, and have my tea with my food, There's so many different ways to find that rest, and you just have to find something that aligns with you. And then obviously there's a rest of sleeping at night, which sleeping is the central part to healing. And if you can't sleep, it means your body and nervous system is off.
How much sleep do you get per night, or how much do you try to get per night?
For me, between 7 and 9. I think it changes for everyone. In Chinese medicine, women are more yin, so more grounding in nature, but also need more sleep than men. Men are more yang, they're more hot. They always want the AC in the room, they run warmer. And it's also when you go to the nitty gritty of it and then go to the Western standpoint of sleep score and REM sleep, it's how do you attain that? And someone could be laying in bed for 10 hours, but not getting restful sleep. So that is a big indication of also what is off balance in their body.
For sure. Yeah, because there can be a lot of different things affecting your sleep. I stopped drinking pretty much because I realized how much it was affecting my resting heart rate and how elevated it was when I was trying to sleep, and then how poor my sleep quality was while I was sleeping.
Yeah.
And so when I don't drink, I don't have anything affecting really my sleep. But if I was really stressed that day, that can also affect my sleep.
Of course.
There are so many different factors, and it's so interesting because I wear the Oura Ring just to kind of track my sleep mostly in my cycle, and it really helps me see what is affecting the way that I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
I think more people should pay attention to that, because I think people would achieve a better sleep if they knew what was affecting it negatively.
Yeah. And in
positively.
Chinese medicine, we always not just how the quality of sleep, but it's do you have trouble falling asleep or staying asleep? Because those are two completely different ways of looking at the body, right? And it relates to different organ imbalances. And even, let's say trouble falling asleep, we say it's a heart blood deficiency, meaning it's also tied to some type of anemia or B12 deficiency or iron deficiency, right? Are they eating enough red meat? If they, are okay with eating meat, are they nourishing their body enough? It could change with cycles. After someone's bleed or period, are they having more trouble sleeping? And it's everything is a indication and a tool to look at to see where your body can go back more into balance.
Yeah, definitely. So we talked a little bit about cold, right? Cold versus hot. So I want to dive in about what are your thoughts on cold plunging? And since TCM is kind of against shocking your body with the cold. So can you get into that a little bit?
I can come from both sides, the neuroscience and the science part of it, and then also the Chinese medicine part.
And also like men versus women.
Yes, 100%.
Okay,
I
cool.
love this. Cold plunging. I personally don't like cold plunging. And I'm going to come from it from a Chinese medicine standpoint first, right? In Chinese medicine, again, a free flow of qi, or this energy or blood movement in the body, means health. And as soon as you stagnate it, that's when things happen. And so when you think about ice cubes in water, everything is stuck and stagnant. Imagine yourself getting into a cold plunge. That's what's happening to the body, right? And so everything is slowed down. And so that's why we don't prefer it. On the Western standpoint, there's a lot of research about mental health, how it's great for anxiety, depression, and that I have to recognize that it can work for some people, but it won't work for most people. But a lot of that research is just mostly men, right? And for decades, most research in Western medicine and for clinical trials is mostly men, because women are more complex. We have hormones that are more volatile, right? And so it makes, when you think about a phase 3 stringent trial, they want to make sure that all of the, outliers or a lot of the, parts of our hormones are not part of the study, because then it makes it more complex, right? They need like certain parts to just align. And my vision of it is, the reason why it works in Western medicine and science has shown it is because it's all about the vagus nerve switching, right? When someone is anxious, their vagus nerve needs to be triggered to switch them back into the parasympathetic. However, I believe, and in Chinese medicine, there's so many other ways to switch your nervous system in a more gentler way. Sometimes a shock of that cold, especially for women, is too much for their nervous system. It's going to spike their cortisol. It's going to make them feel worse, right? And so again, it's tuning in with your body to see if that's right for you. We actually have contrast therapy in my clinic, but we're very specific about the protocol. We always say start hot and end hot. And the cold plunge isn't there to just be a cold plunge, but it's there to transition and like dilate the blood vessels and to help you heal in a certain way. But there's also a lot of patients who come in, let's say some women after their period, or if they're extra tired, or even men if they're tired in general. I'm like, do not get in the cold plunge. Just get into the sauna for certain issues, right? And I think it's individual. People have to be really careful. I think, transiently, and again, this Band-Aid solution of, oh my gosh, I jumped in the cold, it felt great. But if you do that every single day, or let's say consistently, it's going to make your body feel worse.
Interesting. That's fascinating.
Anyways, there's always two sides of it. I always have to share both.
No, it's smart to share both.
Yeah, and I'm like, but Chinese, I will start my Instagram reels of like, stop cold plunging. Chinese medicine hates it.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's where we are.
I want to switch into sugar cravings because they're obviously really common. What might they signal from a Chinese medicine perspective, and how can we rebalance them?
Yep. So sugar cravings, when we think about sugar cravings, we have to talk about our glucose spikes and how our body actually is going through the day, right? Let's say you start your day with a protein smoothie and you throw some fruit in it, or start your day with even just coffee. Because there's a lot of research that says just coffee on an empty belly spikes your glucose.
Really?
Having fruit in the morning or something cold, will spike your glucose.
Yeah,
and when something spikes,
makes sense.
It's going to dip, right?
And then at the dip, you're going to crave.
Exactly, because that's where you have the energy and the elevation. And so from that Western standpoint and from a Chinese medicine standpoint, they come together where we always encourage a protein-rich breakfast. And in Chinese medicine, a warm protein-rich breakfast, right? It's cooked eggs in the morning. It's even like an oatmeal. I like to crack an egg in it, make it savory, some sesame oil or scallions. It's delicious. So how can you prep your body? And also in both medicines now, and Chinese medicine has been saying this for thousands of years, and Western medicine is finally catching to say women need to eat breakfast because of hormones and cortisol.
They do.
But in Chinese medicine, every organ has a 2-hour window. From 7 to 9, it's a stomach, and from 9 to 11, it's a spleen. So the stomach receives food, then the spleen transforms it. So if you're not feeding it at that time, the organs get weaker and weaker and weaker, hence digestion. At issues that come about. So if you can feed it during that time, it's strong. It's able to give you the energy for the rest of the day. And then the sugar cravings that happen at night, it's because you're not eating enough during the day, And so sometimes people are like, I crave chocolate at night. I always need something sweet. I'm like, I don't think you're eating enough during the day. Where's your breakfast? Where's your lunch? Is it, protein rich? Is it balanced? Do you have fiber? Because as long as I've seen this shift a lot where once someone starts to have a breakfast, ideally between 7 and 9, their whole body changes. They have more energy. They don't have the sugar cravings at night. And I've been there too. I was on that health trend when I was working in the hospital. I had a cold smoothie every morning. I blended frozen fruit, walked to the hospital in snow in Boston, and my body freaked out, and I went through my own health journey too. I was cold. I sneezed all the time. My body was inflamed. And I'm like, okay, why? And I was like, whoa, this is why Chinese medicine explains it. And it makes sense. But it took me a little bit to get there,
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about your health journey?
Yeah, I'm so happy to share. I have always been, from like a standpoint of, grand scope of things, I've always been a healthy child, a healthy person. But my health journey shifted, especially during that time when I was working at the hospital and post-college. I mean, I was having fun in college. I was drinking, I was smoking, I was doing all the things. Now I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do anything because I feel so much better. But on my body, it's kind of ironic that this happened. I was working in the allergy and immunology department. And my first week, I had an anaphylaxis reaction.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm not allergic to anything. I've always never had any triggers. And it was essentially a mast cell overproduction. It happened after I ran on a treadmill. I remember I went to my doctor that day. And she was my supervising doctor. And I was like, why did this happen? She was like, do you exercise? I'm like, yeah, every day, and this triggered. And it was almost like a perfect storm that happened where, when we think about running in heat, that's inflammation, that's triggering. It's why hot showers make allergies worse sometimes or can make skin itchy more, right? And so it was just a combination of probably everything I was doing in college with this new transition into new life, with the cold of Boston, with all the smoothies that I was drinking, all the sugar that I was having first thing in the morning. And and my eyes got itchy, my ears closed, my throat closed. And it was to a point where I'm so grateful that I was okay. Because by the time the reaction started, I was thankfully with my roommate at a gym in Boston. And I was like, oh, let me just go home and take a Benadryl or pop in a Zyrtec. So we went home. My face was like so swollen. She's like, don't look in the mirror. And I couldn't even swallow the Benadryl. And she was like, we're calling 911.
Yeah.
So I went to the hospital and they kept me overnight because they're like, we don't know what triggered it. You have to be careful. And for a while after that, I was chasing what caused it, the Western model is that it's elimination, and they're like, what did you have then? I'm like, I had chicken with lemon and pepper and salt and broccoli, it's the most simple things. And it's not like I haven't had that before. And they're like, maybe it was something there. Maybe it was a spice blend. And I'm like, no, it's not what I ate. It's how my body was at that moment.
Right.
And so that was my shift into, okay, I need to tune in more with my body, and obviously why Chinese medicine made more sense. But I actually didn't get my first acupuncture treatment until I was in Boston when I met my now husband, because to me, Chinese medicine was holistic in health and lifestyle. And I just needed that extra jolt to then rebalance my body, which then I did, got acupuncture, and it helped. And then I had another health journey stint as well a few years ago where I got off a decade's worth of birth control. And then my body freaked out. I had debilitating acne for 6 months, like right before my wedding. And of course I was like, I'm going to stop birth control before my wedding. But I was almost like on a time crunch. I'm like, how do I balance my body out to look good for my wedding, And it was all Chinese medicine. I got acupuncture every single week for 4 months, body and face. I took Chinese medicine formulas every single day. I had to regulate my stress. I had to change my lifestyle, shift what I needed at my body. For those few months, I think everything I ate was cooked and warm.
Yeah.
And now, it's like 80-20. Yes, I have an ice cream here and there. I have dessert here and there because my body can level out, right?
Yeah.
But it's like I had to heal at that time.
Yeah.
So I went through like a couple peaks and dips, and Chinese medicine was truly the answer for everything.
I love that. Well,
Sorry, that was long.
No, it's interesting. I mean, I love hearing about people's experiences, and other people do too. It's what makes us feel heard and seen, and being like, oh, someone else has gone through something just as crazy as I have.
Yeah. I mean, it was nutty to think. I mean, I carried an EpiPen around for 5 years after that because—
oh my God, you were just scared.
I mean, it's more so the doctor's like, you have to keep it in every purse. But, after a year or two, I knew that I didn't need it. I'm like, my body's not going to react like that ever again. And I know it won't ever again.
Way, yeah.
Exactly. I never had to use it afterwards.
Good.
Yeah, but it's just interesting where I went to the doctors and I had the best care. I was literally working in the allergy department and there was no answers, And it was just like, maybe it was a strawberry you had the night before. Like, this is what's happening where your mast cells, you're having a mast cell reaction. I'm like, yes, I know that. But like, why? Why was my body at that state? And they couldn't figure out.
Of
Whereas
course not.
in Chinese medicine, there's an answer. It's because I had too much, what we say, damp in the body, damp and cold. And that can translate to inflammation.
All your smoothies in the cold.
And the cold, and the shift. And then
Wow.
obviously it's a balance of this damp and cold, but also I had that trigger of hot and heat from probably the alcohol I was drinking. And I'm Asian. I get the glow. My body doesn't process it. And so it was accumulation of everything. Like my balance was off the scale and it tipped me.
So you created Moonbo, which is your skincare line. Can you talk about the reason why behind it and what it means to you? And I'm guessing you use it. Your skin looks beautiful.
Yes. It's what I've been using for the past 2.5 years or 3. At this point, I don't even know. We started formulating before it was launched, right?
Right, of course.
So we went through our renditions, but Moonbo is a Chinese medicine skincare line. We emphasize Chinese medicine herbs. So it's herbs like chrysanthemum, which is our hero ingredient. While chrysanthemum, it's a nice yellow flower that we actually drank every time we had dim sum. Because dim sum can be heavy and hot and cloying. Chrysanthemum is the opposite. It helps you digest. It's cooling. So everything is medicine in nature. And modern research has finally shown that while chrysanthemum is so good for the face, it's high in beta carotene, it's anti-inflammatory, it's antibacterial. It's so beneficial for the external, but also the internal. And so all of the herbs we bring into it are used holistically. But also it's not just, you have to eat it too, but when you put it on your skin, it almost repairs your barrier and it's more gentle. Things like pearl powder, for example.
I was going to ask about pearl powder.
Oh my gosh,
Can you talk about pearl powder?
Yes. Pearl powder is one of the main ingredients in our moisturizer. And it's literally crushed up pearls.
That's it?
Yeah, it's literally crushed up pearls, but obviously the way that it's sourced and they go through, cleansing and strict processing to make sure that heavy metals are low, was used in traditional Chinese medicine for thousands of years, internally and externally. So externally, emperors and empresses would put it on their skin as like a mask to create this radiance, because also in Chinese medicine, it heals wounds. So it helps with acne scars.
Wow.
Because it's so high in calcium too. But you can also take it internally. So during my acne journey, and only for a little bit, I took pearl powder capsules because in Chinese medicine, the energetic of it, it's very grounding. So it brings all the energy from up here down. So it's great for anxiety, for a lot of what we say mental health, like in your head issues, but it's also clearing of heat. So it cools the body. And when we think of acne, heat is rising in the body. Everything's up here. It's why acne, anxiety is all tied together, because all the energy's up. So how can we do the opposite, right?
Wow.
And so pearl powder is amazing to take internally, but also externally. And externally, you can put it on your face every day and it's safe. But the only thing about internal pearl powder is you have to make sure it's right for you, because too much of it will then put you too low, right?
Well, how do you figure out if it's right for you?
It's the symptoms. It's making sure you work with a Chinese medicine doctor to make sure.
Don't just take it on your own.
Exactly. Now it's in a lot of supplements, and I'm a little bit wary about that because it can make someone feel too grounded. It can make them feel more depressed energetically, and it can make them too cold to then cause other issues, right? Because that's what the energy of it is in general. And herbs, period, aren't supposed to be taken every day. It's about how your body is shifting. That's why, if you work with a Chinese medicine doctor, the herbs always shift and change based off where you are at the moment.
Yeah. So back to Moonbo,
because
I transitioned you away.
That's okay. So much to share.
Yeah. I love it.
Yes, Moonbo. So I created it with my twin sister. A couple years ago.
Are you identical?
We're identical twin sisters. She's my best friend. She's so amazing. Looks exactly like me, but we're opposites.
Of course.
And Moonbo is a rainbow around a moon at night. It's literally yin and yang. The moon is yin, the rainbow is yang. And it's about how duality coexists. And it's so beautiful when it's in synergy and it's in perfect balance. And so we created this because, we distilled it from like 150 names. And then right before we launched that New Year's, I was in Hong Kong and I looked up in the sky. There was a Moonbo. And I said, Heather, this is it. I'm not veering away from it. Wow. And she was bouncing between a few names. Like, this is who we are. We grew up in Hong Kong. We came to the Western world. We're twins. You live in New York. I live in LA. It's bringing Eastern modalities to the Western world. It's my background. Like, everything makes sense. And so that's the whole purpose and mission of Moonbo. It's a coexisting of East and West, but also sharing Eastern methodologies and healing. And yes, it is skincare. Yes, it's beauty, but there's so much more depth to it about learning about the herbs. It's holistic, but we also share everything about lifestyle and herbal knowledge and food. It's kind of our mission to share Chinese medicine with the world.
How many different products do you have?
So we have 4 SKUs. We have 3 skincare products. We have a cleanser, a serum, and a moisturizer. And then we have a gua sha tool. And obviously we're building more and, creating a bigger subset of SKUs. But it's been really exciting, and it's been really interesting diving into the beauty world to say, hey, what is our avenue? And we could have done supplements. We could have, built a clinic or franchise together. But for us, beauty meant a lot to us because in Chinese culture, it's really big. Our mom taught us about skincare when we were 8 and how to take care of the skin holistically and what it means. And so it's just very precious to us. We're like, okay, we want to share beauty from when we were kids to now and share it with the Western world too.
Beautiful. I love that. Well, I want to try it for sure.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm going to send you some. Yes.
Great. I would love that. Oh yeah, I want to ask you, are there any things, do you follow a specific diet, or are there any things that you definitely include in your diet per week, or that you don't include? Like, what is your...
To be very honest, I eat everything.
You eat everything.
Yeah. I don't not eat anything. I don't restrict myself from anything. I think more so it's been more intuitive. Obviously when I had my acne stint, I was very careful about reducing sugars and inflammatory foods. I mean, the only thing that I don't consume is alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that my body's always said no to. I used to have 2 drinks and have to smoke a joint to make that headache dissipate right away. It was the balance I found in college.
You figured it out then.
I figured it out. Yeah. It was like 2, Smirnoffs or, hard seltzers. Oh my gosh. I'm like, it gives me a headache.
Cringe.
Plus a joint. It's like a perfect store for a fun night. But the next day we'd feel shitty.
Of course.
Yeah. But I eat everything. And what I do really know works for me and in Chinese medicine is having 3 meals a day, having 3 warm meals a day, and making sure that there's protein and that it's mostly whole foods.
Yeah.
That's all I stick to. It's pretty simple.
I love
whole foods,
that.
Warm, protein
Dairy,
rich.
gluten.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I mean, dairy in general, a lot of my meals are not dairy heavy. Dairy isn't big in
Chinese medicine.
Exactly. Chinese medicine or Chinese food.
No, it's not.
But yeah, I love my cheese and my pasta every once in a while. And yes, I just went to Cola Pasta on Saturday and had the best meal with my husband. But yeah, we kind of felt shitty afterwards. But I'm like, it's fine. We'll bounce back because it's balance.
I live by the same rule, 80-20. I've talked a lot about this on this podcast, and I love that other people are doing it too.
Yeah.
I think it's just really important. We still have to live life and love our life and
of course.
Experience joy. And sometimes what brings us joy is having a meal that doesn't necessarily agree with us.
Exactly.
But because we treat our bodies so well,
we can
bounce back quickly.
Exactly. It's the bounce back rate. And I'm a big foodie. I mean, I come from Hong Kong. I love food. I love cooking. I love
What's your favorite cuisine?
Oh, that's a hard one. I mean, naturally, people ask me this sometimes. They're like, what's the last meal you want to have on your deathbed? Like, I want to have a home-cooked Cantonese meal. Cantonese, when we think about Chinese food, there's so many type of Chinese food because China is massive. I came from Hong Kong, which is, outside of China. But a lot of the meals were nourishing, and growing up, it would be a steamed whole chicken plus a steamed fish with ginger and scallions and soy sauce, a bowl of rice and soup. So we always had a broth soup every single night for dinner. And that's what healed me as a kid. And it's why people in Hong Kong and women in Hong Kong are the healthiest and live the longest. Because
it's broth.
Broth, yeah.
What kind of broth? Just
so
chicken
it's always a mix of some high collagen protein. We change it. It's either, chicken, and when we do chicken, we do the whole chicken with chicken feet and everything. So you get the collagen, pork or beef.
Chicken feet need to be included to get the collagen?
Sometimes it is, sometimes not. But yes, it's really high in collagen.
Okay, interesting.
And then we add something sweet, and it's not like sugar. It's naturally sweet. We literally boil apples or papayas or corn, let's say, or carrots because it's sweet. And then we add Chinese herbs. It could be, things like goji berries or jujube dates, apricot seeds. There's, ginseng, there's so much you can throw in there. And growing up, there was always mixes that work well, like ginseng and chicken soup plus ginger is so nourishing.
Delicious.
And so every time we drank it, we wouldn't eat the components in it. We'd always sift it. We take out all the oil. You just drink the broth. But I had it every single night as a kid, and I would drink the soup with my dinner. And that's why, Heather and I, when we think about it, I'm like, we were such healthy kids. And when we moved to the US, that's when, things shifted a bit.
Of course.
But it's, anyways, back to what I would eat. That's that is my favorite meal.
What are your thoughts on corn? Because I don't know what to think about corn because I hear that it's very inflammatory towards the gut.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Again, yes, 100%. When I think about the most inflammatory foods, it's alcohol, sugar, gluten, corn, soy. The way it's processed, the way that our body actually can absorb it, right? But like if you throw it in a broth and you kind of boil it for that sweetness, that sweet, we say that flavor of the sweet pairs so well with like the savory and the neutrality of, let's say, pork, and plus the herbs. It's all about a mix of flavors because all the flavors have the benefit for the body, So in a sense, that's fine.
Because you're not actually ingesting the actual kernels.
Yeah, which you can't digest.
Right, of course. That's why they come out whole.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's like fibrous and whatnot, but your body's just absorbing the sweetness.
I got it. That makes sense. So in a soup, yes, maybe you're not eating like a head of corn.
But I mean, again, it's all about balance. But
of course,
yes,
every once in a while.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh, a barbecued like corn on the cob.
Oh, it's so good in the summer.
Good. So good. And I'm like, fine, a fresh summer corn salad. Like, yes, I'm going to eat it.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Balance.
Yes, it's balance at the end of the day. You can't,
Yes.
That's what my mom says. I hear in the back of my mind, it's just balance. It's all balance.
I just want to talk a little bit about hormones and balance a little bit before we wrap.
Yeah.
How does Chinese medicine approach hormones differently than Western medicine? And then what is the connection between like stress, sleep, and hormones?
Yes. So when we think about hormones in Western medicine, I think it's pretty nitty gritty of here's my lab test, my progesterone or estrogen or testosterone is high or low, right? And there's so much more nuance to it and so many more hormones that you can, analyze. And then Western medicine is like, if you're going through perimenopause or menopause, let's put you on an estrogen patch because it's low. So let's increase it, right? Chinese medicine is completely different. If someone comes in with labs, I love to see it, to see how I can benefit and help them, but it does not change the Chinese medicine treatment, right? Because to us, there's so much more to hormones than just a lab test. Everyone has a different root cause. Again, everyone's individual. Person A with, let's say, PCOS and high testosterone, and person B with exact same symptoms in Western medicine have a different root cause. And why? Is it, I can get like nitty gritty complex, but, it could be an imbalance, what we say, of the spleen or the kidney or the liver organ, but it doesn't mean that those organs are like not functioning. It's just our way of understanding what we can boost. Because when we think about the meridian system and where we put in certain points, it runs through the system itself. So let's say the liver channel starts in the feet, it goes up the leg all the way up into the eyes, but it passes the liver. So how can we boost that function to then balance out hormones and stress? Because if we can calm the stress, hormones will start to level out. If we can calm digestion, which is tied to the spleen and stomach, hormones will level out. If we can calm, a certain organ like the heart, let's say you're having palpitations, you're anxious, if you can calm that down, it then affects the nervous system. It affects, the switch to the parasympathetic, and then your hormones will level out, right? So again, it's so nuanced. It's, a perfect balance of everything. But again, it's not just acupuncture. It's how you eat. It's how you treat your body. And that's why, when people come in with hormonal imbalances like day one and they come in weekly for, let's say, 3-4 months, when they get a lab test again, it's all leveled out because we've shifted their balance.
Because you figured out what caused it instead of just giving them a hormone.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. Before we wrap, I want to leave you with a couple reflections.
Yes.
If you go back, what's one thing you would tell your younger self?
To just be fearless, and just like trust your gut and intuition. I think for so long, ever since I was, 5 or 6 when I knew I wanted to be a doctor, I'm so grateful for the opportunities I had. And my aunt was a neuroradiologist, and she gave me a lot of opportunities to shadow doctors and surgeons and to see brain surgeries as like a middle schooler.
Wow.
It was incredible.
Insane.
But I think part of me was because of that kind of strict, stringent structure, that's all I knew as a kid. Like part of me wishes, and everything is meant for a reason. I'm like, what if I found out the other side of Chinese medicine as like a 10-year-old girl, like would my mind have, been blown a little bit earlier,
Probably.
Yeah. But I mean, I found this medicine when I had to, when I was going through my own journey. It was meant to be. And I'm so happy that it did. Yeah. But just to be fearless and, uncertainty in where life is taking you. I believe in everything is fated. Everything's kind of set in stone for you. You just have to make choices and be certain with what you want.
Yeah, I love that. And then one more thing. And then looking ahead, is there something you're doing now that you hope that your future self thanks you for?
I think it's living the Chinese medicine lifestyle, but also sharing it as much as possible. I've almost like stepped into this new like purpose. And it started when I, ventured and went to Chinese medicine school. But because now as a clinician and as an adult and someone who sees the impact of what Chinese medicine is doing for so many people, like one-on-one, I, grateful for myself now for sharing it as much as possible, for teaching online, for coming on podcasts about writing it. And that's why I'm creating a course for the first time, something that's people can transiently take and learn about Chinese medicine. It's the 4 pillars, and they don't have to go to acupuncture because you can massage the points to activate similar, mechanisms. So it's just empowering people to feel healthy.
That's beautiful. I'm going to end with a little prayer. May we carry what we need, release what we don't, and stay open to the magic that is still unfolding.
Please.
Thank you for sipping your matcha and sharing your heart with me today.
Thank you for having me.
It's beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to No Matcha, No Mama. If you love the episode, share with a friend, leave a review, or come say hi on Instagram. My handle is @DinaDL. If you want to connect with my beautiful guest, Felice Chan, her Instagram handle is Dr. Felice Chan. Same with TikTok. And you can find Moonbo also has a website. You can look at her up on Instagram and find it. And also she's coming out with a course in January, and that information should be up soon. You can find it on your Instagram, right? Yeah. And remember, thriving takes intention. See you next time.